Today on the show, we are going to talk all things Halo. Game, the lore, the nooks and crannies, all the things that I don't know about it. And Court also doesn't know some things. We have some awesome guests. Let's get into the show right now. Everybody, welcome to Xbox A. I'm Matt. I've got Court here in another window. And joining us, Mo, Dr. Mo, and Luke, the Insipid Ghost. Boys, welcome to the show. Welcome to Xbox A.
Thank you for having us, man. Thank you for having me. Luke, you can speak after. I'm sorry I spoke for you. I'll just speak for myself.
You're doing great. Thank you. I proxy my thanks to Mo. This is a blast.
Oh yeah.
So exciting.
And anytime I can get together with people and talk Halo is always going to be a good time, man. So, oh yeah. Thanks for having me.
I love that I can even see the Halo console behind you. It's such a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah,
and
man.
the fact you got the Halo Elite controller held up by Master Chief, and then another Master Chief holding up the 20th anniversary, and then the two helmets.
This one just came. This one just came today. That's the Jazzwares one, the one with the. Here, you know what?
Yeah, how do you like it?
I can't get
here.
I tried to get it. I can't get it.
No, but it's cool. You can actually put it on. I'm not going to put it on right now, but then there's this, so you can turn it on.
Ooh, damn!
So I have the one that does that. That's not Jazzwares.
No, it is. It's there's two of them. There's a cheaper variant, which is this one without the sounds, and then the one with the sounds is not out yet. I'm waiting for that one because I have that pre-ordered. That one has like 16 sounds, including like Steve Downs' voice in there.
No way.
Yeah, but this is the Infinite, because look, this is the other helmet that I bought. This is the Halo 4, Halo 5 helmet.
That's the one I have.
So we have this one, and then there's the Infinite helmet's just nice, bro. It's just so
that
clean.
Looks nice.
Ooh. It's clean.
So I want to let you know in the comments in the chat, Luke, you have somebody that has booed you.
Someone.
Oh wow! Already, damn.
You can guess.
Already.
But then you also have somebody that called you sexy.
Yeah. So
okay.
Good in the bad.
Thank you. I purposely kept unshaved for those.
Ooh,
things.
Antonio's telling you to take it off. I'm not gonna lie. He's telling you to take it off.
It's getting wild in here, Mr. Badbit. If you do not calm yourself, sir, you will be shunned. I will shun you very quickly from said chat.
But Luke, it's sad about the helmets because we can't get them in Canada.
No, we can't get anything in Canada.
Dude, I feel bad for you guys. There's a lot of shit you guys can't get. That kind of sucks, honestly.
It does.
Yeah, I know. And then when you want to import it, the prices are just
staggering.
Ridiculous. I'm going to be going to the US sooner rather than later. So I'm going to try and grab some stuff. Hopefully people in Boston don't care for Xbox stuff. We'll see.
No, we'll see about that. Luke, can you throw your mic volume up a little bit for me?
I would love to do that.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't.
Is that better?
You can't shun the truth. Oh, Mr. Babbitt, I can. Court, kick it off. Let's talk some Halo, brother.
So we're as we've done on the last couple shows, we're just doing a roundtable and we let our guests entertain us. Let's be real here. So first topic, as you guys already know, I want to know what is Halo meant to you guys and what it's meant to Xbox over the years and in the future.
Mo, you want this one first? Or you want me to go?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we can lead it off with the generic, Halo is Xbox, Xbox is Halo. I mean, really, that's how you start. And that's really the foundation of it. If you watch the recent, what was the name of that documentary for Xbox? Power On, yes, thank you. If you actually watched it and you see how much was riding on this game, the success that was riding on this game, not just for the game itself, obviously, but for the console itself. Halo itself, the brand, the face of, the helmet, that has been synonymous with Xbox for the longest time. I know other franchises have come in, they've, tried to rear their heads, Gears of War, and others. And I know that there's some people who think Gears of War is synonymous with Xbox, but as a boomer who's been there from day one and seen it all, no. I think Halo is not only a pillar of Xbox. Well, actually, I think it's the main pillar of the brand, but I also think it's one of the pillars of gaming itself. We're talking about the game that revolutionized first-person shooters on consoles.
And made couch co-op fun.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, man, it's you know, I mean, again, like I could sit here and I could praise it. I could keep praising it over and over. You know, it's pretty obvious how much I love the franchise itself and the story and whatnot. But there isn't enough that's said about it. And I love the fact that now, it's been so long that Halo's just been in the conversation this much and so often and so frequent. You know, I mean, since the release of Halo 5. And obviously we know what happened with that story. So it's nice to have Halo back, man. Honestly, it's nice to have it back in the spotlight. It's nice to have people talking about it, being excited about it. People are excited about HCS. There's a ton of people watching HCS now, paying attention to it more than ever.
Which
They're
is
looking at these
Halo
kids.
Championship Series.
Yes,
anyone-
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, you just
Halo
were at one,
Champions.
right?
You got to remember, you're a nerd. Mo.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. Okay. Halo Championship Series.
Well, hey, I look at Halo, and Halo is the reason we have midnight launches. Like it's what
Yeah.
created it. I remember it was Halo 3 in downtown Toronto at the Best Buy that was at Yonge and Dundas, and I was living downtown at the time when it launched. And I was going to the bar that night, and I was like, "Oh my god!" The lineup for it was around the court, like it was huge, and it was newsworthy. And I feel like Halo is the game that put video games on the map for the people that didn't really. When I grew up in the 80s, video games were it was the devil, right? And then in the 90s, you had the Super Nintendo, and then eventually the N64, and it was still like the nerd thing. But then with Halo, and it sort of became almost commonplace. It was okay to talk about video games because of Halo. I don't know what your guys' opinion is, but that's how I felt. Like even my parents know what Halo is.
For me, it was
Well, they nailed-
that. Oh, Luke, go.
Go, Luke.
It's important to remember that it was Bungie that put first-person shooters in the console space on the map in a way that hadn't been done before, in a 3D space with dual analog sticks. Beyond that of Doom and GoldenEye, this was the next evolution of first-person shooters, and it revolutionized the way console first-person shooters could exist and would go on to exist. And Halo had two of these moments. First with the first Halo, introducing that first-person concept into console space properly, but then again with Xbox Live. And so they had two pillar moments in the early states of the franchise that solidified it in our generation's memories, for good reason. Whether you played them or not, you knew the word, you knew the name Halo, you recognized the character, and that helmet did become synonymous with Xbox. And to have two pillar moments like that start off your franchise is big. And at the time that Halo 3, perhaps 2 launched, I can't remember, Mo, you can correct me. It was like the biggest entertainment launch in entertainment history. It done more dollars at that point than
It
anything
was
else.
Halo
But
2.
Halo 2,
Oh.
thank you. And so to have that to start off your franchise is why Halo has permeated our gaming culture now, even at a time where Fortnite, Destiny, and Call of Duty Warzone reign supreme over the shooter space. Halo is still special and still influential and still needed, I think, as a healthy balance out. You can make a lot of arguments to say that Halo Infinite still has plenty of work to do, and you'd be right in every single one of them. But to see it come back and to see it be so popular, and then to look back at its history, it's a pretty incredible journey to see a franchise that's going on 20 plus years still be relevant. You can't stay on top forever, and yet somehow they've permeated the gaming culture. And so there's a lot to say about that as a brand, the ups and downs that it's had, from the good, amazing, wonderful moments to the very small and very shameful moments that it's had in its history. I think that's a sign of a legacy franchise versus, a one or two off series.
Luke,
Yeah.
what did for both of you really, like you said, okay, it's with Fortnite and Warzone and Apex and all these other shooters that have come in, and even I'd say Gears, Mo, like mentioned, like, Gears is argued in some regards as like one of the giant tentpole titles for Xbox as a brand, and
it is.
it is,
No
and
doubt.
some would argue that it's
Mhm.
as big for Halo, but it's to each their own. But what for you
Sure.
guys, what makes Halo as a franchise, as its entity, like special? Like what is it for you that you're like, this is the hook, this is why I fell in love with all of it? I mean, I'm sure that's 2 hours of a conversation for you guys, but really in a nutshell, like Mo, I'll start with you. Like what encapsulates the passion and the joy of Halo? Why is it special to a player versus that of a Warzone or an Apex?
Well, first, I think it's kind of broken down into two. You're right. I mean, you have the multiplayer and you have the lore, right? The multiplayer will always have a special place in our hearts, just because nostalgia, right? I mean, every time you play Halo, every time you think of Halo, you think of the times that you had with your friends, getting together, LAN parties. I mean, at we all have our own experiences. I mean, shit, I remember even for Halo 2, just as an example, I don't want to shoot off. I remember Halo 2, the French version was leaked 2 weeks early. Okay. And I had a modded Xbox at the time. I was at school. I was in college. Well, this guy I knew, he downloaded the game. I had no idea. He came to the library and he's like, guess what this is? He's just like holding a disc. And I looked at him and I'm like, don't fucking lie, right? Like that's exactly what I said to him. I'm like seriously. I go, don't do this. Anyway, he gave it to me. I made a bunch of calls. I swear to God, within maybe 10 minutes, we had about 20 guys in one garage, right? I mean, and everyone was just huddled around the TV trying to see what Halo 2 was. Oh my God, this is Halo 2. This is it. And this is before the game even came out. Point is we have our connection to the game because of the multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Past and present, obviously, and I think presently it's much better. It feels much better. I think it's the best feeling shooter on the market, mechanically. And then there's the lore, which I know Luke will also talk about. The lore for Halo is very, very, very deep, and if you dig your feet into it, if you try to learn it, and you don't have to read all the books, you don't have to. When I reviewed Halo Infinite, when I was reviewing it, I told people, I'm like, look, this game is good for people who are jumping into Halo, but at the same time, there's going to be a lot of callbacks to things you're not going to know. If this is your first Halo game, there's going to be things you're not going to know. You're not going to understand. You follow along the story, right? But still, there's still going to be characters that you're not going to know who they are. You know what I mean? So, and I told people, I'm like, go to YouTube. Watch a 30-minute, 40-minute video about the entire breakdown of the Halo lore. Some of them will include books. They'll include everything. And you'll kind of piece it all together. You'll fit it all together when you're actually playing the game. You'll be like, wow, okay. So I personally, I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I'm not usually one who does hot takes, but I think the Halo lore itself is probably as deep as the Star Wars lore.
Nice.
Maybe deeper. Personally, I love Star Wars.
Yeah,
I'm not as deep into Star Wars as I am into Halo, but that's really what it is for me, man. Like, I mean, more than the multiplayer itself, as much as I love the multiplayer, it's the lore. I love the story. It's fascinating to me. Luke, when I was reviewing the game, one time I messaged you on Twitter. I was asking you something. I didn't tell you I was reviewing it. Yeah. I didn't tell you anything. You didn't even know. I just like randomly asked you some question because it was right after I finished the game and I'm trying to think of something. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, let me see how I can ask this guy without making him know or even letting him think that I'm spoiling anything for him. And I remember you and I bounced us some ideas off each other for like 10 minutes in that conversation. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going on too long. But yeah, multiplayer, story, to me, like these are sacred in gaming, man, honestly.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
Luke, question to you.
Well, I've always favored the lore more than the gameplay in general. I've been attracted to that because I love the idea of protagonists rather that are faceless because it's so easy to project yourself onto them. That's why in some fictions, different heroes don't have much of a personality because they want the reader, the listener, the viewer, the player to be able to project themselves into it. And so I've always enjoyed that aspect to the point where I really enjoyed Halo 4's multiplayer lore aspect that you're Spartans training, because every time I was in there, I was thinking about me as a Spartan going in there training, Ghost 116. That was, like some dumb. I've made up stories about my Spartans because I like it. I enjoyed doing that. There is a deep canon that goes with Halo that allows you to examine a lot of different stories and if you've watched The Mandalorian, a lot of Halo stories are very similar to The Mandalorian in that they exist around these pillar moments in the franchise, but there's a lot of stories being told about all these different characters that are affected by these pillar events and then telling their own stories about what's going on there. And sometimes they intersect with the famed Spartans or Jedi, sometimes they intersect with the biggest of the characters, but oftentimes they have their own stories in a universe that's ripe with material to debate and get excited about. And that to me is the coolest part of it. Plus, I've always just enjoyed the idea of an armored suit, an armored mech, and getting to do amazing things and have amazing moments. And truly, Halo Infinite gave me a lot more of those moments than I was expecting by way of the grapple hook. I was exploring parts of the gameplay in the map and doing things as a Spartan that we hadn't been able to do in gameplay versions of it before. And in the multiplayer side, they really nailed the console arena shooter in a way that had never been done before. You can argue Unreal did that with some arena based stuff that was before my time, really, but Halo brought people together in a way that no other shooter had, and it wasn't
Mhm.
until Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare that they had a contender for best shooter.
Yes. Yes.
And I would say they lost that crown, and
Mm.
um, maybe they have that crown right now by default in terms of like recent releases, but I think the crown sticks tight to Destiny and gunplay and Fortnite and market permeation and Warzone and uh, in a couple other ways. But they've really got Halo back on track with Infinite's gameplay. And the criticism that can be weighed to it now is that they are desperate for content in that
Mhm.
multiplayer space. And I think that's a very valid criticism. You also look at all the major releases in the last 4 years, and they've absolutely nailed. Hey, we lost Mo.
Oh,
Yeah,
They've absolutely
he'll be back.
nailed content after that first year for a lot of big releases. You can look at Sea of Thieves, you can look at Warzone, you can look at Destiny, and it's in multiple iterations. So I'm inclined to, in a time where we don't have much competition in that space, it's good for Halo to get a chance to have this year, this 6 months to fix itself, because by the time uh, we see that version of Halo Infinite, that version that Cyberpunk is now having its day today, right, with
mhm.
its big old content drop, when we see that version of Halo Infinite, it's gonna be that much better, and that's exciting to me.
It's a good thing too,
Yeah.
Luke. Right? Of like people are they're I guess some level frustrated that they're like that I want more. Like I just feel like it's a good problem to have. People are not turned off by the game. They are
Yeah, like
craving for more. They're like, give me as much as possible, please, because I'm
yeah,
having such a good time. I want to come back.
like I went through and I know I told Luke I was doing this before because I knew Halo Infinite was coming out and he suggested it was a good idea. I played the Master Chief Collection again. I was like, I needed a refresher. And so I went through the whole thing again. And then so by the time I got to Infinite, it was more of I was following along and it felt great. I played the campaign twice. I was lucky enough to get a review copy of the game. And as Mo knows, we didn't get achievements in that first round, so we had to play it again. But it was also fun to play it again. I actually was able to spend more time in the world, I feel, on my second playthrough than I did on my
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
time constraints. But my question to you guys is, what does Halo mean to the gaming industry? A lot of people always talk about Mario and these tentpole games, but as an elder statesman here, I did play the Quakes and the Dooms and stuff on the PC, and I played those games at the time when they first came out and how popular they were. But when I was in my early 20s when the first Xbox came out. Yeah, I'm old. Um, we got to play Halo, and I remember sitting in a basement and at a buddy's house, and I got an Xbox from Best Buy, and we opened it up, and we played Halo, and we were playing co-op, and we were just blown away how we could play this game co-op together, and we didn't put the game down for months. And that has never happened. The only time that's ever happened in my lifetime is when the Nintendo came out and we all got Ghost and Goblins and Mario. We just played a bunch of different games. But with the Nintendo, we played a bunch of different games. But with the Xbox,
Mm.
we only played Halo. So I want to know what Halo's influence in the gaming industry. Like, obviously, Destiny doesn't exist, but what games do you think are heavily influenced by Halo? And do you think also that Halo has helped the gaming industry be to where it is.
Absolutely. I mean, it nailed I was going to talk about it earlier. It nailed dual analog sticks in a console space where they didn't understand how to do that. Bungie was the first person to figure it out, and you can even watch in the background of Power On, which is the Xbox documentary, like you can watch how they were studying the proper ways to get dual sticks working in a way that gamers could understand that would mimic the PC space. We take it for granted now. That's the influence of it, is that twin stick shooters are pick up and play now. Not twin stick, I'm sorry, twin stick first person games, twin stick aiming and third person games. We take that for granted, but it was Bungie that truly put that on the map. It had been dabbled in before, but not quite perfected, and Bungie really nailed it when it came to figuring that out. And Halo was the brand that took it with it. Halo is also the game that made Xbox Live a staple for Xbox console owners. That was a big, big deal. So much so that, I mean, the story of Halo 2 is just wild when you think about all the stuff they had to do and the timelines they did and figuring Xbox
Unbelievable,
Live.
man.
It's absurd. And the reason that you and your friends were all crowded around seeing this Halo, everybody has those stories of LAN parties, everyone in our generation does, is because that was the first one, man. That was the moment. That was the time in the console space to do that. It was up there with Mario Kart. It was up there with getting together with some buddies in the early days of FIFA or Madden, if that was your jam. It was up there for those moments. Now
In Canada, we all played NHL. Just
Oh, that's right. Yeah, getting around there and my Detroit Red Wings that I liked way back when. Eiserman was so cool. I loved him.
Why do you not like the Red Wings anymore?
I don't watch hockey anymore. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Not
Well,
that
that's fair.
that's all.
I'm from the Detroit area. That's why I'm like, hey, man. All right, I respect that, bro. You like?
Hey,
the
I'm
Red
a
Wings.
Bruins fan, so I just don't like the Red Wings. That's just, it is what it is.
Why? We were never. When were we ever rivals with Boston?
Well, no, but we were in the same division at one point.
You're talking about just like that domination for like 20 years. And
well, no, the Red Wings were a domination for 20 years, 100%. You were a domination between the original Xbox and the Red Wings. Same thing, same time. Halo and Red Wings make sense.
Before we derail, because I could give you whole stories on that too. It was the first one to do that, and that's what made it so special. That was its big influence. It hadn't been done before. Now it's not uncommon to log in and play in a party chat with 8 people, chatting while some of you play one game, others play another. Maybe you're all playing big team battle on Halo. Maybe you're playing Fortnite. Maybe you're playing Call of Duty. Whatever. Halo connected people. They were the first to do it. When you're the first to do something, you're ripe for criticism and you're ripe for praise.
Right.
And I think deservedly it got both.
But you bring it back to, I want to go back to, you spoke about the lore, and when you talk about Halo, I mean, when you talk about Call of Duty and you talk about all that, they don't have lore. Call of Duty at one point almost did. It was almost like a band of brothers when they first started bringing it out, even when it was on PC before it came to console. And then they just went off the rails. And they were like, you know what, forget it. We're just going to stick to what I do. And so that's why I'm trying to figure out what other game in the gaming space in the last 20 years has got its influence and has the lore of Halo. Because you brought up a very good point about the lore. And as a Star Wars fan, I'm a huge fan of what Disney's done with Star Wars to bring out more lore and bring more story to the Star Wars franchise. Because when you look at the movies, it even lost it. Sorry, but when it went to the prequels, it went the other way and started getting a little campy and weird. So, what I'm trying to phrase this properly. What other? I know you got it, Mo. Just go.
No, I know what you're saying. I honestly can't think of anything that's this deep. And I remember I was having conversations about Infinite with after the game came out with some people, and they were like, well, there were questions that weren't answered in the game. And I'm like, well, what questions were ever answered completely in any Halo game that you play? Right? I mean, every game that you play, there's bits of information that's filled in, whether it's through stuff that you read or conversations that you have with people, like for instance, like if I have a conversation with Luke if there's something I don't know or I want to ask about, odds are he will know it, right? And he'll fill in that gap for me. I can't think of any other franchise that has lore this deep that requires this much conversation. We've had hours of dialogue, whether it's Ains' show or in our group chats or whatever it is, just about the Halo lore by itself, about the story of Infinite, and about the enemies and what happens and what happened and where it's going and whatnot. I mean, it's
The only other thing
usually
in the chat,
Sorry,
they're
go
like
ahead.
Project X Talk and Gamer Graham give examples of like, is Mass Effect or Dark Souls up there in terms of lore or comparison?
That's actually yes. Okay, so I can't speak for Dark Souls because I don't play
Yeah.
Dark Souls games. But from what I hear, like I mean, the Dark Souls games themselves, I mean, from correct my understanding, but the stories are a little bit disjointed, right?
Okay.
Like I mean, it's not. I don't know. You know, if Grant
Yeah.
can correct me or if somebody who plays Mass Effect, yes. But I for some reason I thought we were just talking about like shooters or whatever.
Yeah, no,
you know,
no.
because
I
generally,
think that everyone's going off and saying, what about this game or this game? But in the, I think
yeah, okay,
Court's point, you're right, is more of like
yeah,
within the shooter genre itself. Yeah, I don't think
yeah.
anything else has really hit it. Luke?
Yeah.
I don't think
No,
anything
they're right.
had-
They're right. Mass Effect definitely. Yeah, I'm sorry,
I
guys.
think
Yeah,
Halo is beyond Mass Effect in terms of lore expanded, but lore in game, like what does the player see? The player can get more lore out of the Mass Effect games than the Halo player can get out of the Halo games. So then if you look at expanded universe, books, comics, etc., that's when it changes. a little
Halo.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Halo.
No,
It's-
because the Mass Effect lore is pretty deep, you know, depending on how much you want to dive, especially when you get into one and how it introduces you to the world and all these. Oh my God, there was so much. There were so many resources for you to read about the planets and the creatures and the races and everything else in there.
Mm.
So yes, Mass Effect is a good comparison.
It's funny
for
because I
sure,
haven't
but-
had. I grew up with when you guys were talking about, and Court was mentioning too about like LAN parties and couch co-op. I grew up with N64, like Nintendo household and PlayStation, and I would go to my buddy's house specifically because he had the OG Xbox, and he was like the only one that had it, and it was LAN parties, and it was my experience and exposure to Halo. And prior to that, I think my history with shooters was Quake and Doom, big time. And that's what I grew up with. And then when Halo came around, it was this complete shift and not totally realizing obviously at the time because you're young, you're just like, I'm playing shooter game and this is fun and I'm with my buddies. But I've same as you guys, I have never had a game ever, a franchise ever, where I have been with friends sitting there and going like all night playing multiplayer or going through the campaign together and just go again and having that hook on it. And I can't think of anything even for me modern wise. I could look at other genres, sure, because I could play certain games now that I will absolutely love to go back to. But even for a multiplayer for an FPS, I don't get lost in Halo like I do, or go back to multiplayer like I do with a Call of Duty. And that's just me. Everyone's different. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else out there. Like even it's got ebbs and flows, like you guys are saying. People are bringing up Destiny in the chat as well. What do you guys think in comparison between Destiny and Halo? I guess in terms of longevity or lore.
I can't speak on Destiny. I don't even have a minute of experience with Destiny. So I'm not gonna talk out of my ass here. So Luke, if you have it, you lead the way, bro.
Only a bit. I can say that in the initial days, it looked like they were going to be far more story than they ended up getting. It looks
Yeah.
like they just make a choice. Like a lot of games that are live service, they had to make a choice in what kind of identity they wanted to have, and so they chose Grimoire cards. I don't think it worked out for them the way they wanted to. They've done a good job with a lot of gameplay story to clean it up, and I've not touched Destiny 2 in a very long time. But the intention, I think, was there to be as big a story. The interesting thing is, like, what does it mean to have deep lore in this case? Because Destiny and Halo are comparable in a lot of ways in that they're sci-fi shooters in space, but one covers a solar system, the other covers a galaxy, and there's a lot kind of in that. But I think Destiny's got a good argument for it. I still don't think anything covers the range of Halo. But the reason it's such a strange argument is that the Halo games don't have a lot of lore. They really don't. You know,
Mhm.
like I said, it's that blank slate that you can project yourself into, and that's the big kind of difference between the two, in my mind.
What do you
Sure.
guys like? I wanted to shift gears though, because one of the topics and one of the questions I wanted to raise, because I've been very curious about what seasoned veteran Halo players think of this when we look at current Halo Infinite and really the roadmap, or lack thereof in terms of just
Mhm.
what we're going to be looking at. We know of co-op and all the recent announcements that they came out with, right? That are we're going to be getting by probably the summertime, right?
Mhm.
For more updates. But what do you think the roadmap itself when it gets announced, or do you think they will come out with a much more concrete plan from the studio to say this is really what we're looking to do for the next, say, 2 years in terms of content and be more deliberate with it? Do you think that the roadmap will be what we are seeing right now, where it's like, hey, well, you do have a roadmap. It's this and this, and it's this add-on content. I just want to get both your feels for it, Mo. I'll kick it to you, but like, what do you think the roadmap for Halo Infinite is, and players should expect? And then maybe like what it should look like. But yeah, start with that.
A
So
lot to
big-
unpack, Mo.
I know.
yeah,
Because I am not,
Okay.
I am like a average general shitty Halo player. Like I will win some matches, Mo, but I
Mhm.
will get my ass handed to me more times than not. And I'm fascinated with Halo Infinite, just almost just as from the developer side of it.
Mhm.
The launch and the start and stop of things and stuff kind of being pushed out. So I am much more fascinated
Sure.
on that end of it. So what do you think in terms of the roadmap being announced? What needs to be done?
Oh yeah, this is a
I bet
big
we
topic.
argue, Mo. I bet we
Yeah.
argue on this.
Yeah, we have. Okay, so I think the game being out in November, it seemed like the most important thing to them was prioritizing the mechanics of the game. They wanted to make sure that the mechanics of the game were set in stone to launch the game, so that when it got into people's hands, they were like, okay, that at least is something that we can relax on. The game feels great to play. It looks great. It plays great. Blah blah blah. And then once the honeymoon period, uh, it didn't last very long, and people started seeing the lack of modes and more maps and whatnot. And then when they announced that the first season was going to expand to 6 months, I wasn't really surprised, because I feel like they needed that extra time themselves to kind of figure out exactly how to move forward with their roadmap, right? Like, I mean, I don't think they had it completely figured out when back in November
Yeah.
or even in October or whenever it was right before the game launched. And I think they looked at it and they're like, okay, we told people that every season is going to be 3 months. There's no way we're going to have all this crap figured out in three. We can't have a new. Technically, the new season was supposed to start already. It's been 3 months. So the season 2 was supposed to be what now? I think in February. So I personally think that in season 2 they're going to be bringing a lot of new modes, a lot of changes to whether it's to the store itself, new maps that they're going to bring. They are going to have a fleshed out year for us in terms of what to expect. I don't know if they're going to talk about campaign DLC. If I don't know if that's what you guys are talking about as well.
I guess because they're both two different pieces, right? Because they are. I guess let's stick on the multiplayer for now, because I do think campaign is going to be a different.
Here's the thing though, because if you have Joe Staten leading the charge on this, and he is the lore god, he created the Halo lore. That's why they brought him back, right? Like, I mean, they brought him back to kind of right the ship. Yeah, he wrote the book. So if you have him on here and he's basically in charge of everything, I mean, so I wouldn't be surprised if this roadmap includes some type of hint as to when to expect the next DLC for the campaign. But if you guys want to stick to multiplayer, I'm all for that. That's fine, since that's what we're talking about.
Good anywhere, but
I know, man. I'm telling you, dude. I just go. I go to places.
Well, let's do this then. Let's stick with multiplayer roadmap, and then we'll switch over, and then let's talk campaign roadmap.
Fine.
Luke,
but to make this shorter, I'm sorry. To make this shorter, I do think that they'll have a full-fledged map of what we're going to expect for all of 2022, because I think they know that they have to do that. right? Like, I mean, you've already expanded. They're doing a good job of filling in the gaps for us because a lot of people were like, well, how are you going to push a season 6 months? How are you
Mhm.
going to do it? So they have the fracture events, and they had that the neon thing that they had
Yeah.
a few weeks ago, which was actually pretty cool. So they're figuring it out of how to keep us busy.
Mhm.
But I do think that they know that they have to deliver for season 2, which
Mhm.
is only 2 months away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead, Luke. Yeah.
Well,
What do you think?
they've done a good job with those events. Start there. Like
Mm-hmm.
they know that people, as soon as they adjusted the way people were gaining XP, which was a fair criticism, but also
Mm-hmm.
one that was premature. I think if people started to experiment a little bit, they would have found that leveling up was not that difficult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't fair either. Like you should be able to play and grow as a character. Your number should go up by playing. That is a thing that should happen. I see Mo and his old school tendencies shaking his head. But like you should play and get credit for playing. That is a modern thing across every successful shooter in the multiplayer space that needed to happen. So in doing that, their battle pass was not designed for that. And so they had to retool a lot of things. And they told us this, but we're gamers and we want instant satisfaction. Had Call of Duty and Battlefield hit well, people would have jumped ship. So it worked in Halo's benefit that it did not work, that it wasn't the case. And Halo's mechanics are bar none the best shooter in recent memory. Apart from Crossfire X, which just chef's kiss, right? So
Just
I
just
think when
floating around there in mindless space. God.
yeah,
Continue.
it was it's so weird. So, they've done a good job at trying to fill the gaps from their adjustment on player progression to give us these events to log in. They've adjusted a lot of the store stuff, which the store criticisms affect the multiplayer. Having a store is important to multiplayer in a lot of ways, again, in that modern shooter space. And they heard criticisms, but they needed data to report back to the bigwigs and the bean counters. You have to have data to argue their points because
Sure.
they're businesses and that's just the way they're designed.
Mm-hmm.
But they've adjusted things, they've reacted to things, they've heard player feedback, they've tried to respond to stuff. And I think season 2 is going to be the call it the true launch of this multiplayer, the second coming of it,
Yes.
Mhm.
the cyberpunk
Yes.
big patch 15 months.
Yes.
It's whatever that is, whatever
Yes.
it needs to be. And as gamers, whether you like it or dislike it, that's becoming the norm, right? You need a Taken King moment. You need those big content drops, that anniversary update in Sea of Thieves. A lot of these big games, they launch, they hear feedback, they adjust, and they really what they're doing is buying themselves time to execute on their full vision because games are hard.
So
Yes.
so as the outlier in this, I question to you is now for me, I'm a big fan of not the I love the gameplay of Halo, but I like the progression system of like a Call of Duty where I can see the number going up, and then if I do challenges, I get cosmetics.
Yeah.
Why do you think Halo didn't do this?
I think they were trying to find their way and be a little bit different. And I think you got to take risks, and the risk didn't pay off in their benefit. I was surprised by that. I think the battle pass was a big misstep because they had a lot of stuff going for it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
some of the biggest, coolest, best parts about this battle pass is it never goes away. So you can progress it whether you jump in at launch, whether you jump in 6 months later in the beginning of season 2, or 3 years from now. That's awesome. That's a good win.
And more people and more publishers are gonna start following suit.
As they should. As they
Yeah.
should. I
Mhm.
hate that I've missed content in Fortnite that I can never get again. Right? I
Yes.
hate that different moments like that are
Mhm.
gone.
Yeah.
Halo's smart to do that. I am confused why I said this at launch. I'll say this in several months hindsight and years from now. It's surprising to me that they made that misstep, despite the willingness to take risks, which I applaud, because they had the Master Chief Collection, they had Sea of Thieves, they had Gears of War, all with really good progression systems and battle passes, plunder passes, etc. But the lesson seems to be learned, and everything that we're seeing with the Forge leaks, as far as multiplayer, everything we're hearing,
Mhm.
everything we're noting, and the stuff you can see, these events have improved. The Fractures events got better from Fracture week 1 to Fracture week 2. They're like, hey, we fixed this, we adjusted this, we wanted to honor your wishes for this.
Mhm.
Those are all positives, and I think because there's less competition in that shooter space, they're okay to do this.
Well, that's what's really
Yeah.
cool. Like cool, but I guess unfortunate for the other devs and the other titles out there, like a Battlefield, where it did not hit. And I'm someone who plays Battlefield almost every year, and I skipped this one because I just went, no thanks. Vanguard, I didn't touch it.
That sucks, man.
Yeah.
My heart would have been broken if Halo had launched the way Battlefield did. Like, if that
Yeah.
was your game, if Gotham Knights flops, I'm gonna hurt so bad, and so I hate that for you, man.
Don't put that out there in the world,
don't
Luke.
do that.
That's
We all want that.
my two most anticipated games are Gotham Knights and Harry Potter this year. Like,
Here's
all I
man,
want.
Here's the difference between, just to kind of piggyback off what you said, Luke. If Halo launched in the same way as Battlefield 2042 did, that would have been a disaster.
The franchise,
Especially after a year plus of waiting, of the delay, of the hype, really, of the expectations. Didn't meet all of the expectations. Well, depending on who you talk to, it didn't meet all of the expectations in terms of what we were expecting, but I think it was an amazing start for it, right? Like, I mean, it was a lot better than people thought it was going to be. Let's just put it that way, right? Because we heard the jokes for over a year. Oh, what's going to happen with Halo? Well, Halo's dead.
What do you
irrelevant.
What do you guys think that needs to be done for, like, so a player like me, as an example, I love. I come back to Halo's multiplayer because of the mechanics, and I just, as soon as I started playing it, when it launched, I was like, this feels right. I played endless Call of Duty, and I get a little bit bored of just team deathmatch and just going around, just small quarters map and just trigger, go. But I started playing Infinite, and I went, wow, this just feels right pace, right feel for the gun, the rifles, everything. I loved it. But the thing I don't love is, like Court said, is the progression system or lack thereof. I am missing this this thing that I'm going for, and that you're telling me to go for cosmetics, to go for a different color for my gear, and I'm going, so what? Like, what's the point? How do you counter that argument? Like, almost, how do you sell somebody even down the road for the roadmap of, like, this is what's coming? Because that's my one hang up, where I go, I could play for 2 hours and have a great time, but I put it down and I kind of go, what was the point of that? Like, I unlocked
had a great time.
I know. I had a great time playing a video game. The end. But you know what I mean? You want to feel like you got a little bit, you work towards something.
Sure.
I'll tackle this one first, Mo.
Go ahead, man. Of course.
So I think the players like you, Matt, and Court, because Court, your battle pass is low, right? Like 4, right? Okay. So if you bounced off, that sounds like you bounced off early before they made some of the adjustments. Logging in and playing 4 or 5 matches a day, you're going to progress several ranks. That's going to happen, right? They reward you for those first few games, as they should. Like, a lot of games do that. So I think if you bounced off, it sounds like you bounced off a while ago, because progression feels a lot better.
Probably about a month and a half ago, I'd say, because when they did the updates, I noticed right away when they did the more substantial early update, the XP was triggered, and I was like, oh, I am going up like hundreds in XP, and I was progressing that way.
And I played the last team deathmatch I played with you, Luke, and I had a great time. And that I leveled up. I didn't level up as much, and then any other time I've played, I usually play on Halo Saturdays, which Sean does on custom matches. So I'm not getting anything out of it, right?
Right.
So I played a lot in there, so I've logged the hours, but yet you're right. Like, I didn't go back in because I'm a outlier of what they're not trying to get me to play the game. I had a great time. I'll still play it. Like, if friends say, hey, we're playing Halo right now, I'll go in and play, because it is, as Matt said, it is a lot of fun. It's probably the most fun I've had with a multiplayer shooter in a really long time. You know what? Since Halo 2 and Halo 3. That's how long it's been since I've had that much fun playing, and it just feels right. My thing is, I am one of those people that, like, and I understand the number doesn't get you anything either, but I like seeing that bar go across the screen and fill up. And when I have to go around and do for me, and this is just for me, when I have to go around and just do the challenges, I'm just like, that's just, that's not my thing.
That's the dopamine rush that Call of Duty perfected. So go ahead, Luke. I'm sorry.
Which is real.
The challenges are, they're a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I can't stand them. And I feel like they've made a lot of improvements since they first launched. I like the numbers going up as well. I think they can do a better job of showcasing that. I think they probably will. But for the player like you, the way that they bring some people back, the way they keep some people like you guys in there. And I would argue I'm far more casual than Mo, and that's partly why I asked him and Ains to be on, is that they're so into the top tier, the sweaty version of it. Whereas I kind of like, if there was a bot fill mode, like for fun, like where it was just me and my buddies versus bots at difficulties, I'd play that more often, right?
I'm in on that
You
too.
can do that with customs, like you can set that
Yeah.
up, but I would like a mode like that. I think they're already working on cosmetics to bring people back with I think you'll see a lot of improvements with that as well. More maps is something that the game is in need of as well, because I really do like, I like all the maps. And I think as a suite, they're pretty solid. They've got a few tweaks here and there for the sweatier players, but for casuals, I feel like if they're a good set, there's just not enough of them. And they've got more modes on the way. They've done some experimenting with attrition. I really liked attrition mode,
Yeah.
and some of the things it introduced there. I think the other element that is missing is that PvE side of multiplayer, which sounds like it's going to be on the way from Certain Affinity in some ways. But Titanfall did this well. Halo Warzone did this well, having bot enemies that are kind of just
Mhm.
fodder. That's a really nice way to make you feel like you're contributing if
Yeah.
you're not very good. You know what I mean? Because if you're the bad one on the team, that sucks.
And
I
you
hate.
played with me. I am the bad one on the team.
Well, when
The
I play
bad
with
one.
Mo and his crew and Ains and stuff, like I'm the bad one, and I'm not bad at Halo. I'm just like, if I'm tired, I'm not there. But
Yeah.
I don't want to be like if I'm exhausted at night, I don't want to play with Ains because he's gonna take my true skill so high up that I'm playing against these great people. That's not fun for me either, and they got to find a way to adjust that. And they've done so much already, but it
Yeah.
is high time that more happens. I can grant anyone that. Mo, go ahead, buddy.
I just wanted to say one thing real quick. I
Yeah,
will
go
say to Luke's defense, when I am the worst, but when I play with him and his buddies, they help me a lot. Like when we play big team battle, they're like, "You go do this," and like I'll go, or "Hey, you drive the warthog, and we'll kill everybody." Like they're very good at coaching me along. But I am a single player guy. Like I'm so excited for more campaign expansion. Like beyond, I loved playing that game.
Mhm.
Anyways,
That's fun. Well, you said something earlier, Court, about the game is not. They're not trying to get players like me, or they're not trying to get people like me. I think they are, right? And I think that's where they screwed up at, because by going free to play, you were supposed to launch this game in a way that attracts a lot of people. You're trying to take players away from other games. You're trying to take them away from Apex. You're trying to take them away from Fortnite, from Warzone. You're trying to take them away from them. And I don't think they did a great job into doing that, because a lot of people downloaded the game. A lot of people played it. Some new people have stuck around because of the mechanics and how good it feels and whatnot. Some of them have moved on. And I don't think they've done a great job of maintaining that, because I have friends who've been playing Call of Duty for a long time, right? And they're intimidated when they jump into Halo. Like they're intimidated, man. I'm telling you. They're like, "Holy shit, I can't play this. I can't play this." I'm like, "Why, bro?" I'm like, "Just freaking just play."
My
They're like, "No
students tell
way,
me
man.
that,
I'll
like,
get I'll get wiped." They keep saying like, "I'll get wiped." I'm like, but so they recognize the skill gap, right? Like, I mean, Halo itself, that's the difference. And I'm telling you, I played Call of Duty as much as anybody did. I played Warzone for less than a year. I had 97 wins with a few of my friends. I haven't played Warzone in a year and a half, just because I felt like I was wasting my life just doing the same shit over and over and over every single night. But we all played Call of Duty. Call of Duty is easy to pick up.
Mhm.
It's easy to pick up. Obviously, some of them, they say like, "Oh, it's difficult to master." I don't think it's difficult to master. I think obviously you just build more skill, but it is easier to pick up and play Call of Duty. Whereas like with Halo, I don't think that's the case. And I think a lot of these players are starting to see that. Like they kind of get intimidated by the skill gap, because
my
it does.
students tell me that, like for real.
Yeah.
Several of them, I'm like, "Yo, have you played Infinite?" Like, "Yeah, it's sweaty, Mr. Loar." And I'm like, "I know." That's the
No,
it's sweaty.
it is sweaty. Think about it this way, right? We've been playing Halo for so long. Look when we watch HCS, for instance, right? Like when we watch the Halo Championship Series, the way these kids, some of the things that they do, it's ridiculous. It's the same exact move sets we have access to, right?
Yeah, it's offensive.
But I look at them, somebody will look at me, they'll be like, "Oh, this guy's good." I'll be like, "Well, I actually suck." right? Like, I mean, that's why and then when I look at people like that, granted, yes, I know they're professionals, but still, Halo does that to you no matter what skill level you're at. You know, like, I mean, you will look and you'll see there's a gap in the skill between you and the next person, right? Because there's no, that multiplayer does not hold your hand at all, man. Like, I mean, it's like for me, why I love it so much is it's about pure skill. You're not going to get lucky in Halo. It's either you're good or you're not.
That's what I find
But
with Call.
It's the one that when I do get that 1 kill or 2 kills in a row, I remember playing with Luke. I got like 3 kills in a row and it came up on the screen and I was so happy. Because I know, because Halo's always been about the best of the best play Halo. Everybody else goes and plays Call of Duty and figures out how to cheat or whatever they want to go do over there. That's on them. But when you play Halo and you get 3 kills in a row, you did something. And it's also about the team. Like, I like bin team battle. That's one of my favorite modes. It's because everybody plays as a team. And when you don't have someone who plays as a team, no one wants to play with you anymore. So it's almost like playing in the schoolyard.
That's the other thing too about the multiplayer itself, and what differentiates it is because of, again, you know, if we're gonna compare to the King, Call of Duty, how many thousands of team deathmatch games did we play with our buddies in a party chat, right? How often did you ever communicate to your friends about where someone is or whatever, unless they're next to you? If you're playing Halo Arena, you know, if you're playing ranked, communication is key. I cannot emphasize it, how important communication is. You are not going to lone wolf that game. I mean, you have to be a god. Like, you have to be somebody like Renegade, for instance, from Cloud9, which is a HCS. Like, you have to be somebody of that high of a skill in order to take over a game on your own. But generally speaking, the team is everything, and that's one thing that I
think that hurts it though, Mo.
What is it?
I think that hurts it. Like, sometimes,
why?
Man, I don't think everybody wants to come home and put on a mic and talk to people.
Sure, know? But then you jump into casual. Right?
That's the difference. Okay, so you were talking about more about the competitive side. Okay. Gotcha.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right, I was thinking that's one thing that sometimes I don't want to talk to anyone. And
man. We all have those nights.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, you have to be in that mindset, man. No, I agree.
What about what about we got an idea for what the roadmap would be for multiplayer then. So then, Mo, talk to me about campaign. What do you think? We know about the bigger things when it comes to co-op, and Court and I have talked about this so many times. We're like, yeah, this campaign was totally co-op. Like, it was built for co-op. There's stuff that's just locked that you're like, clearly I'm supposed to go here. And the way the maps are built out, even early on, I am outside and I just feel like I love the fact that there are so many different ways I can approach. But it totally feels like I should be just tagging Court online and being like, jump in right now live with me and have him go run around the other side and flank.
And get the power cell and throw the other power cell to the other person. Like, so, we know videos are coming of people throwing power cells at each other. We all know this is happening.
So what do you think, Mo, then is going to be done or needs to be done in terms of a roadmap for the campaign side of things?
Okay, so I'll be honest with you. Personally, I'm one of the few people, I don't care for co-op and campaign, you know, because I love the story so much. I like to experience it on my own. And I think the way that they built this ring, you know, just the personal story for Chief himself, you know, with Weapon and his conflicting feelings and feeling guilty about Cortana and how he let her go and her being, you know, him being the cause of everything that happened. He had a sense of guilt, right? And I think that itself, because it was a personal story and you're kind of going along with him and seeing everything, I think that would have been lost in translation if it was co-op. Granted, co-op, you don't play it for the story, so we know that. Yeah, of course. The ring itself is, of course, you could see the co-op elements, right? But at the same time, I also see, I didn't mind it because the isolation that you feel, the fact that you're alone on this ring, you know, you're not necessarily, you can see that you're outmatched or that you're outnumbered, right? And it does such a great job of making you feel like you're like this little insignificant flea on the ring initially. And then little by little, you just start to chip at their armor and you piss them off. Little by little, and I think it goes really, really well with the story itself. I'm getting off tangent here. I'm sorry, or I'm getting tangential here. But for DLC, like you're saying, we might hear something this year. I don't think it'll be released this year. I think it'll be released next year. I think it'll have something to do with the endless. There's a lot of questions.
But is that a problem? Like, let's just say hypothetically that there is no campaign DLC. And I, by the way, I'm with you. I can see that there are elements that it should be a co-op based. But I'm totally with you. Single linear story. I love that story that they told, and that's like that's mine. And I like going through that because you gain more of the emotions in the co-op experience. Do you think it's a problem though if like, and Luke too, like if they delay or they have nothing to really announce and showcase for this year from a DLC for the campaign side? Is it a problem?
I think if the co-op releases in a good state, in a functional state, and they somehow just and they figure out a way to, and I think that's why co-op didn't launch initially, right? Like this game was clearly built initially for a single player campaign. And then they're like, okay, how are we going to build this experience around a co-op experience? It's not just a matter of just plugging somebody in, right? There's a lot of shit that goes into
they were struggling with
figuring out
checkpoint
how,
systems.
yeah,
Because like where you activate a mission, if you've got somebody across the ring, that's
yeah. There's a lot that goes into it, man. That's the thing, you know what I mean? And they could have just rushed it and given us, you know, like, but they didn't. You know, they're like,
Well,
okay,
they said in the documentary they took out 40% of the game.
I'm sorry?
They took out 40% of the game.
Yeah.
That's what they said. There's like I remember when I was reviewing it, and it was funny. I wanted to DM Luke so bad because I knew he would want to know everything. I was like, I'm so confused at this, and he would be like my encyclopedia. So I would message Matt and I would show him a picture. I'm like, hey, look, another door that doesn't open. Like you go down this huge hallway of a cave, and then you go into this thing, and you're like, oh, I'm found this cool secret, and then you're like, a door that doesn't open. You know it did though. Like that definitely should have opened. There's so many areas in the map, whereas as a huge open world single player campaign type person I explore maps like crazy. It took me over 90 hours to finish Valhalla. Like it's because I just wanted to do everything. So I checked the living daylights out of this map in Halo, and that as a single player person, that's why I want, like everybody, I understand why 343 is focusing more on the multiplayer because that is what Halo to most people is. To me, believe it or not, even for all the times, I would play the multiplayer with buddies, but I would also play the campaign over and over and over again. So to me, Halo is all campaign. And when they said Halo Infinite was going to be this thing where I was going to get these new stories and get to go to new biomes, and I haven't got it, I just want a roadmap. Just tell me, hey, that's going to come next year. We're going to work on the multiplayer and I'm good. Like truly, I have patience. I have a 5-year-old. Like I've learned more patience than anybody. I just want to know, like, what do you guys think that they're going to do with this?
Luke.
So strictly on a single player side, you're definitely going to get the co-op element this year, and with that co-op drops Forge. And if you've seen anything that's been released intentionally or by accident about Forge, is that there's some pretty dope stuff happening there.
There is.
I could care, like I don't care about Forge, but people were talking like it was a big thing that it was out. Couldn't have cared less. Not my jam.
I still don't care for it much. Yeah, I'm with you.
Nor do I. But when I saw the biome shift and they added snow, changed everything about those maps. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if that's a tool that they're perfecting in their slip space engine and in their sandbox, and they're figuring some stuff out there, then you have something to be excited about that could change the core way you play Infinite. That's exciting to me. Ty Guy Travis specifically said to me, he's like, dude, you really might get something this year. And he hasn't said anything about it for this was months ago. This was when it first came out. So this has been public.
Yeah.
You might get something this year because when you look at the Xbox slate, and I've said this a couple times on XCP, there's nothing in 2022 that I'm excited for. Redfall and Starfield are both unproven and new. You have to expect you're going to get a Forza expansion. You have to expect you're going to get a Sea of Thieves content drop, which we now know is true. And you have to expect that you're going to see something on the Halo Infinite side.
Maybe a Gears collection?
Maybe. If they do, it's not going to be.
Well, yeah, because the coalition's working on something, right? As we all know.
Yeah, but I don't think you see that Gears collection that people want it to be. That Phoenix collection is better suited to be dropped into Unreal Engine 5, UE5.
And if you look at the roadmap, Forza is going to come sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So it's not end of the year. Like if Forza is going to drop something, we're going to hear about it next month, and it might even come out in March. They might do a Hot Wheels or something just to give that little kick to Xbox right now. Go on, Luke. Sorry.
They certainly could, and it would be well timed if they wanted to compete with Gran Turismo. Though I don't see Xbox as trying. They've not tried to show down on the release dates anymore, which is to their benefit because they have less consoles on the market, despite selling out. The the idea of something for single players or something for the PvEers, something where the non-multiplayer elements of Halo can be explored is a key. Whether that's a firefight style mode. I think that might be your best bet to bridge the gap because I would love a horde mode element of
Yeah.
Halo. We know certain affinity. Is this public? A certain affinity mode, is that the one that they're building? It's got PvE elements like Halo Warzone and like a bigger big team battle or something like that.
We don't know exactly what it is. This is all still speculation. Like there's been nothing that was
All right.
confirmed yet. That it's all rumors, but it looks like it's gonna happen. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. So they're definitely. And it
Kevin
helps
is
out
saying
too.
Jez Corden tweeted it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
he did tweet it. Yeah, but
So that suggests that what they're doing is they got this campaign out to make the 20-year anniversary, to make the big holiday rush. They killed Forza by accident, which is a darn shame, because all the talk went away, which is just a shame. But they hit the biggest player count they've ever gotten in Halo. No Halo game has sold 20 million, which is why when I see people say "Is Halo dead?" it's like, no, shut up. It's like 20 million players played this game. It released on multiple platforms of Xbox, xCloud, PC. This is a huge success for them, and you're having a drought while they figure out their direction next and clean up some of the things that they couldn't get to. And whatever hits in this year comes for Infinite, what you're going to see is the real things that this sandbox is going to offer. They built this engine from the ground up, and surely they were misdirected at first, but when Staten came on, he really seemed to steer it towards a launch, and now he's letting the teams play. And that's what I'm excited to see is just what this Slipspace engine brings. And, when you look at the bigger scope of everything, what is Halo Infinite going to look like in 2 years when you've got the knowledge of Bethesda having time to work with those teams, when you have the knowledge of Activision Blizzard come in? Like, how are they going to influence each other, if at all? And they're going to. We know Phil Spencer holds, figurehead meetings with different studios to share technology and share ideas, and that's what I'm excited for. Like, whatever.
Is Master Chief going to start ripping apart grunts? Is that what we're? That's what we're.
Well, we know executions are coming. That's one of the things they stripped.
Fair enough.
They stripped executions. So if you have one called Rip and Tear, like I fully expect Doomslayer to be in Halo Infinite. Like that's going to be in there
as a skin, yes.
Yeah.
Like why haven't they done that? Like for
time. I think
we think that. You think Phoenix is going to be? He's going to be in Halo Infinite.
This is all the sexy stuff that's coming.
Yeah.
I think they're saving it all. Right? They wanted to establish a base.
Yeah.
And I think all the sexy stuff is going to slowly start getting pulsed.
And what's the benefit of putting it out right now?
Yeah.
Court? Like why put it out now?
You're right.
You've lost the people.
Mm-hmm.
Why bring somebody back for a game that still feels the same? Like, you know what I mean?
And you could bring it out. Like if you look at what Xbox is coming, and I know Luke, you and I have talked about this through DMs. Starfield is extremely big for them this year. That is a huge thing, not just for Xbox. It's a huge thing for Game Pass, and that's what Xbox is turning into. But you can look at 2023 where they're all these studios that they have are about to release a ton of things, right? And you just also now have Activision Blizzard. They're going to have a lot of things. They can start doing these every other couple months, fun little things. Hey, I know we've got all these games over here, but we still want you to go play Halo. So here's this skin, and here's how, if you finish, they could do fun things like if you finish the latest Bethesda game, you unlock this for Halo Infinite. Yep. They could start doing those type of things where they can combine these games, and Halo Infinite really could be infinite because Halo Infinite is like the MCU of Xbox, and everything has to do with Halo Infinite, and every game can sort of have this little thing. And yeah, I know they've done these things in the past, but you could have like, the charms, right? So if you 1000% a game that's an Xbox first person studio, your charm, you can get a charm of that game that's on your gun. That kind of stuff like that gets me back in. I think that's fun.
I think also whatever point I was about to make completely escaped my mind, and so I
My
lost it.
apologies. I do that. I derail people. I haven't talked much today.
No, oh god, whatever it was, it's gone. Sorry.
Well, guys, you know what? We are nearing the end of the show, anyways. And it's really
I missed half of it.
Yeah, it's fine. I recorded it, so you can catch up tomorrow, Court, and you can listen and watch the whole podcast.
Well, I have to finish listening to XAP, a fantastic podcast that I was listening to in the car, picking up my daughter today. But
we really want to thank you both for giving up your time and coming on the show, because Halo is a game that, at least for me, and I think for Court as well, that we want more. And it also just the vast lore and everything and its history. And from books, from the actual games themselves, there is so much there. And that stuff gets us excited because we get to hear what other people really love and enjoy about these things.
Mhm.
So we can just get better educated to go, okay, now I get it, or now I see it, or I see where somebody who's got way more experience really truly loves about a certain franchise or thing or whatever, and what really gives it kind of that, I don't know, that next level feel for it. So it's really cool to be able to talk to you guys and get a better sense. Because for me, like, I love doing the show here with Court for these podcasts, these roundtables, because it's a little bit more of an opportunity for me to just sit there and go, oh, this is why this is good and this is good, or what other people are thinking about this, if it is just like a roadmap or where the franchise is going, stuff like that. So
yeah, especially because we just talk about, here's this news piece and
here's Game Pass.
Here's an article by Jez Corden, and here's the information that's in it. Like, that's kind of what we do. So that's why we're doing these roundtables. But I want you guys to tell our audience, where can they find you? Well, where can they find you when you're not playing Halo Infinite and
Well, you can find me on Twitter, Docta, DOCTA _Mo, MOE. You can find us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Backlog Chronicles podcast, where I'm a lot more animated and colorful than I was today, out of respect for you gentlemen. So yeah, man, every Sunday night we usually just have a great time. It's a pretty laid back show. We talk a lot of games and video, and we try to have fun with it. Topics are obviously insightful, but at the same time, we try to keep it less, we try to keep it in the realm of, why did we decide to do this? Why are we doing this show? Like, why do we want to talk about video games? To have a good time. We kind of like keep like the business stuff out of it and whatnot, because that's kind of boring, man. You can just watch that stuff on Twitter or read a Jason Schreier article. So honestly. But yeah. But I appreciate you guys having me. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, man.
I love talking about Halo. I love it.
Luke, what about you? Where can people find you if they don't know already?
You can find me each week hosting the Xbox Expansion Pass on all your podcast services. It's a weekly discussion of the goings-on in the gamerverse as they pertain to the Xbox ecosystem, and I often feature developers, voice actors, and voices from around the gaming industry. Most recently, interviewed the developers behind Infernax, which is a great game on Game Pass that is going to get overshadowed by a lot of the AAAs from February. Don't miss it. Really fun game that I really want to spotlight. Infernax, played on Game Pass. It's on Switch, PS4, PS5. It's on everything, but it's there on Game Pass. Don't miss it. Infernax. It's a really fun game. Check it out.
Thanks, guys.
Wow.
Oh, on Twitter, Insipid Ghost.
Boom.
Insipid.
Thanks, guys.